In times of strife, the basics of life are near impossible to find. Food, water, clothing, safety. Getting those basics in and out of war zones and disaster zones alike is the job of a group of highly skilled flyers. The heart and soul of Canada's air fleet, the lifeline for soldiers at war. Tonight, on Truth, Duty, Valor, the elite squadrons of 8 Wing, risking their lives to get the job done. They are the men and women behind tactical and strategic airlift operations. Since the Great Depression, Trenton Air Force Base has trained highly skilled tactical and strategic aircrews for war. Trenton's fleet of transport aircraft has crossed the globe, flying thousands of hours a year, supporting international causes.
Airlift lets you move anything from people to equipment, supplies, right now to wherever you want it to go. That's what airlift does.
They carried troops to the Middle East, delivered food and clothing to Haiti, took bullets in Sarajevo, and flew into Rwanda when no one else would.
Hey, my name is Captain Bernie Castonguay, Air Force Reserve 8 Wing Trenton Tactical Airlift Squadrons. Flew in support of the UN mission in Rwanda, UNAMIR. Canada had the only airplane flying in and out of Rwanda. Actually, we were the only airplane in Rwandan airspace, period. So in that sense, and I take pride from what I did.
Which one are we doing, kind of route? Out over Presqu'île, we'll half over Presqu'île. Standard chart. Yeah.
Today, they continue this proud legacy, risking their lives for comrades, countrymen, and those in need around the world. They are the squadrons of 8 Wing, pilots, navigators, loadmasters, flight engineers, ground crews, loaders, riggers, maintainers, and flight trainers. They are at the heart of Canada's global tactical and strategic airlift operations. The stakes are higher and the job more dangerous than it's ever been before. Why? Because the world has changed. There's a war in a far-off place. A war where tactical and strategic airlift are the lifelines of deployed troops.
I'm Lieutenant Colonel Rob Coulthard, the commanding officer of 436 Tactical C-130 Squadron here at 8 Wing Trenton. Our provision of strategic and tactical airlift to the Afghan theater is vital to the Canadian Forces operation there. Because it's a landlocked country, obviously, we're only getting soldiers in and out of there by flying them in. So this is a vital link for that entire mission.
Transporting troops, delivering vital loads, providing battlefield mobility over long distances, versatile, highly trained. They are the unsung heroes.
They all are very driven to do their jobs. They love their work. It's a stressful environment for them generally because of the stresses imposed on the family life. They're gone so much of the time. I think of my tactical crews, probably about 25 to 40% of them are gone on any given day.
Most aircrew are type A personalities, very much in charge, want to get the job done, very task-oriented, very job-focused.
The story of 8 Wing these days is one of both home and away. Home is CFB Trenton, where more than 2,500 military men and women work and live along with their families. It's the focal point for deployment. It's where the soldiers leave, and it's where they return.
My name is Major Steve Camps. I'm a navigator by trade, and I'm currently the Deputy Commanding Officer of 436 Transport Squadron here at 8 Wing Trenton. It's very hard on the families right now at home because we deploy so often for such long periods of time. It takes just a different kind of person that can do that, and the support that the members get from their families and from the rest of the military community is phenomenal for our guys that are constantly deploying overseas.
The squadrons of 8 Wing carry a heavy burden.
Around again for another pass. If you get it again,
they're away from their own families, and it's their job to take soldiers away from their loved ones. It's a vital job that doesn't end there. When they're away in Afghanistan, the job is even more critical. Every day, the squadrons of 8 Wing provide tactical and strategic airlift. Without them, the mission could not be sustained.
I'm Captain Trevor Shawaga with 437 Squadron. I'm a pilot on the A310 Airbus. It's a team effort. The whole war against terror that we have and everything that's going on overseas right now. Trenton is the hub of the strategic airlift where everything goes through here. So I definitely would say that we do our part, because without all these supplies, equipment, and people, nothing would be happening over there, really. So we are the ones that get it there and bring it back.
And get things around the world they do. The tactical and strategic flyers of 8 Wing see every mission imaginable. Missions to war. Missions to deliver humanitarian and natural disaster relief. Missions wherever the need is great.
Thank you very much.
If you need something, equipment, resources, food, Band-Aids, doesn't matter what you need. If you need it, you need to get it somewhere quickly, then yes, airlift is the way that you have to go.
Radar step switch.
Staying prepared, trained and mission ready 24 hours a day, 7 days a week is the job back in Trenton. Preparing for emergencies is a big part of that job.
Okay, so Oscar's been dispatched, confirmed. RCC's been called.
I want the headline pulled off a red knot.
Alright, exercise.
Grim lead ready. Go ahead.
Handling just about any situation is how air crews and ground crews alike stay mission ready.
Trenton is the key air mobility base that we have in the Canadian Forces. All of the C-130s that fly to Afghanistan, that are flying in Afghanistan, come from Trenton. All of the air cargo that is shipped to Afghanistan comes from Trenton. All of the rotations, the troop rotations, come in and out of Trenton. So Trenton is really the key linchpin in the operation in Canada for the Air Force.
8 Wing's transport squadrons are at the forefront of Canadian aviation. Their large fleet of sought-after transport aircraft have made Trenton one of the biggest and busiest international bases in the world. They fly missions in support of the Canadian Forces, NATO, the UN, and the Red Cross.
Generally, any time in the world that there's been a crisis, a humanitarian crisis that the Canadian government has decided that we're going to play a role in, it's come out of Trenton.
The base has seen countless airlift missions come and go in its more than 75 years of existence. Those missions have been both tactical and strategic. each with very different requirements, each employing a very different kind of aircraft. But when something happens in the world, it is usually the C-130 Hercules that is called upon, flown by the 436 Transport Squadron. They are the tactical flyers of Canada's Air Force, heading off to missions unknown. The 436 Transport Squadron of CFB Trenton are the tactical flyers of 8 Wing. Tactical flying is the most dangerous flying of all. On Operation Archer in Afghanistan, every day is a risk for those who fly into and around this highly volatile part of the world. But it's the only way to get the job done. And the tactical squadrons are the only ones willing to do it.
436 Squadron is the only tactical airlift qualified squadron in the Canadian Forces. So our job is basically to train for the mission in Afghanistan.
The squadron's motto is, "We carry the load," reflecting both the job they take on and the responsibility they shoulder.
To give you a good example, the Afghanistan theater of operations is where we're primarily focused on tactical operations today with the C-130 Hercules. We use it in there to take the soldiers to work from our staging base in Camp Mirage to into Kandahar.
It involves low-level flying, as low as 200 feet above the ground in training. It can involve landing in a hostile environment. It can involve airdropping the equipment or the personnel out the back of the aircraft.
I'm Warrant Officer Jim White, Chief Check Loadmaster at 436 Squadron. We drop vehicles, we drop fuel, we drop ammunition, water, rations. Basically, whatever the Army needs on the ground to do their job, we can drop it.
It can be fairly dangerous. We're trying to do it in a combat environment, so we could potentially be over a drop zone where there's a firefight going on, dropping bullets to the troops that need them on the ground. So it can be very, very dangerous.
In Rwanda, we got shot at and mortared and came home with holes in our airplanes.
Quite often in Sarajevo, we would go and not fly for a few days because they had stated their intention to target aircraft. Sarajevo was a very unique environment. It was very dangerous for us to fly in there.
Other numbers.
Actually had loads get hung up in the back. It requires quick thinking, quick reaction, and to get the airplane and get the load secured so that we don't have a further mishap.
Despite the inherent dangers, the tactical flyers of 8 Wing have logged more flying hours than any military Hercules fleet in the world on every conceivable mission. The 18 air crews of the 436 are made up of a skilled bunch of pros who fly over 5,000 hours a year.
The actual aircraft team is made up of 4 different trades: the 2 pilots, the navigator, the flight engineer, and the loadmasters. The actual skill sets, it's hard to define. You have to be just very motivated to do this type of mission. It's a very difficult, very demanding mission.
It's basically 24/7. I mean, you never know when you get called out for an unforecasted mission, within Canada or whatever. And of course, once you get deployed, you're away from the family for a while, and over there you never know from day to day what your flight's going to be the next day. So it's interesting.
These kind of tactical missions depend solely on the turboprop power of the Hercules aircraft. The Herc can get them in and out of rough terrain, and it can carry enormous loads.
It's a 4-engine turboprop airplane built by Lockheed Martin. It's really the workhorse of the Air Force for tactical airlift, not only for Canada, but for the majority of the air forces around the world. It can land on dirt strips, it can land on grass, obviously it can land on pavement. It can fly as slow as 130 knots up to about 300 knots. or so it can fly very low as 200 feet or lower if need be, you know, up to a ceiling as high as 28 to 30,000 feet.
Strong and tenacious, the CC-130 Hercules is as mighty as its name. Valued for its ruggedness and performance, the Herc can carry up to 92 combat troops and more than 20,000 pounds of fuel for tactical air-to-air refueling. Named for the mythic hero who performed great tasks of strength, the Hercules is an aviation success story. Designed to land on unknown airstrips in the midst of unstable conditions. The Herc has a huge rear cargo ramp, rugged landing gear, excellent short field performance, and high ground clearance for engine propellers. It offers immediate response, directly in the line of fire. That's the Herc's advantage for tactical airlift. But when it comes to long-range, rapid, multi-use strategic airlift, a very different kind of plane steps up. The Polaris, named for the North Star. Jet engine, versatile, high profile. This bright star of the skies is flown by the strategic flyers of 437 Squadron of 8-Wing. It's the plane for getting up close and personal with 8-Wing's elite flyers. The air crews of 437 Squadron of 8-Wing have the distinction of serving as the only strategic airlifters in the country. As a result, they fly unique missions all over the world, from troop deployment to aid delivery. Their motto, anywhere, anytime.
Basically, our job in strategic airlift is getting people and equipment to and from Canada, overseas, anywhere, basically in the world, in a very limited amount of time.
The overall airflow between Canada and Afghanistan can be described as a strategic leg, essentially, from Trenton, which is the main center of embarkation and debarkation for the troops from Canada, through Camp Mirage, which is our support base in the Middle East.
Every, on a certain rotation, we'll take almost 2,000 troops in and out of the area. So it's very important, I think, and it's a direct link from Canada to overseas.
Sure, that flies 8, 9, or 10 hours at a time, and when you land, you're not really sure what time of day it is, at least on your body clock. Quite often you have to sleep during the day and then get up the next evening and go flying again. And yeah, it's very hard on the body. I used to look much younger when I started this job.
Strategic flyers are on call and ready to go. The plane that gets them there when duty calls is the CC-150 Polaris. The 437 Transport Squadron, nicknamed the Huskies, are the only aircrew qualified to fly 8-Wing's fleet of 5 Polaris aircraft.
It's actually a civilian airliner. It's an A310 Airbus, basically, but we've made modifications to it, and we have different variants of the airplane. We have 5 total on the squadron, of which one is a full passenger airline version. 2 of them are air-to-air refueling, just recently converted, which are also combis, which are half freight, half passenger. And then one extra one for just a combi, not an air-to-air refueling. And the last one is a VIP configuration in which we fly the Prime Minister, Governor General, and other dignitaries on trips as well.
It is the speed and size advantage of the Polaris that the pilots count on to make their task possible.
The squadron itself is actually, it's a senior squadron. When I say senior, I mean it's a lot of people that have been in the military for quite a long time. That's kind of the end goal of the multi-world for a lot of guys to get the experience of flying a heavy jet aircraft like this. 25. by the time we get flying.
Being an elite and seasoned squadron, the 437 carry out specialized missions with faultless performance that comes from years of experience. One of those missions is to bring home fallen soldiers.
Yeah, repatriation flight is when one of our soldiers is killed overseas, in which we'll actually fly over and bring the remains back to Canada. It's something that we've done from day one when the war on terror started, and we became a part of it. So it's, I think it's an important tradition that we do, and something that means a lot to the families as well to have them come home via a Canadian military aircraft.
The strongest memories for me, unfortunately, aren't the happiest memories. I think I've lost count of the number of soldiers I've had to bring home from overseas who didn't survive their tours. It's always heartbreaking to land back in Trenton and see the families as they're offloaded from the aircraft.
This heartbreak is all a part of the bigger story that unfolds every day at CFB Trenton. A story of dedication and commitment. A story of deployment and homecomings. A story of versatility meeting adversity. Tactical and strategic airlift crews do it all. They are as flexible and versatile as the planes they fly.
Whatever we have as an airlift asset in the Canadian Forces, we use it as much as we can in a number of roles, and there's always more demand for airlift than we can provide.
Our job is to provide support in airlift, and sometimes that means we fly, we'll show up in the evening at 6 o'clock at night and fly all night if that's what the job requires. It's not definitely not a 9 to 5, 5-day-a-week job.
Ground equipment.
With growing demand for airlift on so many different missions, the Polaris and the Herc air crews must adapt at a moment's notice. And the aircrafts themselves must be as versatile as possible.
The Airbus A310 can be configured as a full passenger configuration, or we can remove the front seats and we keep 60 seats in the back, and the front end becomes a cargo area.
So when it comes down to moving troops, we have the capability in a full passenger airplane to take a lot of people at once. And also on a normal sustainment flight where we're taking both people and equipment, we've got the combination versions, which again, it's unique to its kind. There's not many aircraft around that can take that much freight and people at the same time.
Like the Polaris, the Hercules also carries both people and cargo, but its strength lies in its ability to deliver critical supplies anywhere in the world
15 seconds!
without ever having to touch the ground.
When we're dropping paratroopers, it's lives are on the line, or when we're in a combat situation and we have to deliver rations or any type of equipment that the Army needs on the ground. It's very important stuff, and it has to be done properly, or the troops are going to have to do without, and we don't want that.
An airdrop is where we take either equipment or personnel and we put it in the back of the aircraft, and it needs to be delivered to a place where it's too dangerous to land the aircraft, or perhaps there's no runway, nowhere for us to land.
If it can fit in the back of the airplane, it's airdroppable. I've been at this now for almost 17 years, and I've seen a lot of different vehicles, different loads go out of the back of the aircraft. It's really good. It's a very versatile aircraft, very tough. At times it's forgiving, at times it's not, but it does what's required.
For instance, the airdrops that you've probably heard that we've done recently in Afghanistan, that's the first time the Canadian Forces has done combat airdrops since Korea, and it's critical to the troops on the ground, the ones that are in contact with the enemies. It's very dangerous, as you're aware, to drive the land convoys out for the supplies that these soldiers in the field need. We provide that ability right there to the commander, and that we can fly and get them into more remote areas at a much safer level than the guys on the ground can.
When the Hercules does need to land, its versatility passes the test again.
Well, the Hercules was designed very well as a tactical airplane that can land pretty much anywhere, and it can land on all kinds of runway surfaces. Doesn't need a big paved runway. It can land on gravel or dirt or grass, and on fairly small runways. It doesn't need as much room as a big airliner does. It also has the advantage with those 4 engines and the reverse thrust in the propellers. It has the advantage it can land on pure ice and still be very controllable on the ground. So it's an ideal airplane to take into the Canadian Arctic.
We're going to alert.
Roger, we'll be on the ground in 20 minutes. We'll be looking for the usual parking overnight.
Landing on icy airstrips in the high Arctic is a critical part of airlift. Specifically, the support missions that fly weekly to the northernmost part of Canada, the Canadian Forces Station on Ellesmere Island at Alert.
What force is going to be 1A?
Sir, welcome to Alert. You're clear to taxi to Spot 1 where your marshal is waiting for you.
Spot 1 for Marshall, 1045.
There are somewhere between 50 and 100 people who are permanently reside there as a military community, and we fly up there every week to supply them with basic needs. There's no other way of giving them or getting supplies to them. Shipping's not viable up there, and so it's really an airlift operation to keep that station functioning. And so we take up everything they need. Anything from building materials, vehicles, and of course food, water, whatever they need.
Anything and everything, whenever and wherever the need is greatest, the crisis is looming, the war is raging, or lives are in peril. The tactical and strategic flyers of 8-Wing Trenton are the front lines of airlift operations. So what does it take to be one of them mission ready? It takes guts, sweat, and above all, training. Lots of training. At 8-Wing, there is only one squadron responsible for training and qualifying the air crews.
Sort of tactical arrival or?
One that ensures technical support personnel have the skills they need. One that promises all its graduates have what it takes to participate in theater operations around the world, no matter what the task. This is the mandate of 426 Transport Training Squadron at 8-Wing Trenton.
For aircrew, the biggest thing here is that we can conduct all the training in a safe and very controlled environment. And that is key to us because we can have the aircrew get top-notch in their flying skills and develop their airmanship and situational awareness before they get on the flight line, which ultimately leads to a high degree of flight safety for us, which is paramount in the Canadian Forces.
426 Squadron carries out hundreds of courses and graduates close to 900 personnel a year. With the help of a state-of-the-art computerized training flight simulator, the 426 trains new recruits and qualifies experienced pilots.
Radar stand switch. There's no doubt about it. The resolution in the simulator is not as real as the real world. And it's a little harder to judge your vertical distance. Tactical on check.
Pull up.
And discard GCAS. Clear the obstacle. Post takeout check. Post takeout check. Yeah, clear to the right. And once
course in itself, the Combat Ready course, is 5.5 months in duration, which includes approximately 80 hours in the sim, with the one you see behind me right now. And that's broken down into about 70 hours on the initial training for the strategic side, and then approximately 12 hours on the Combat Ready side.
Turn, sorry, sir, between 3,000 and 10. This is Thunder 333, Thunder 3.
Anyone with an undergraduate degree can apply to become a pilot candidate. But a set of grueling tests, both physical and mental, must be passed before being accepted into the Force's flying training.
Sure, the simulator. The simulator is a full motion simulator on 6 axes with a max view visual system. It's known as a level C simulator, so very good class. And we use it, it's a multi-purpose, used for aircrew, technical training, the whole 9 yards.
So this is our C-130 Hercules full flight simulator. It's built by CAE. It's got a full motion system, as you can see here by these hydraulically operated jacks, about 1500 PSI. These are accumulators which act as shock absorbers, and also it's low friction to allow for quick movements, side to side, banking, or forward and back. And it can carry a pretty big load because, as you see, the white flight deck weighs about 12 tons, and the motion system can move it from side to side, basically within this white area, within a few seconds, and it can generate up to 3 Gs of force if needed.
Beyond the flight simulator, out on the flight line, are the qualified aircrews of 437 and 436 squadrons, the tactical and strategic flyers. For them, the training never stops.
So for today, drop zone thumperhead briefing, the map series Alpha 751, map 31 Charlie 3, edition 8 at 80.
We're very mission oriented because we do fly a lot, but we also are very training oriented as well because we have to keep a very high standard.
It's a very perishable skill. If we don't practice it often enough, you become very rusty, and that could become very dangerous in a combat environment, which we're flying every day in Afghanistan.
You train to the point where you react, and that's what training is all about. So yes, I have been in situations where I would rather not have been in getting shot at or being mortared or whatever, but it was the training that let me be here to talk to you.
We try to train like we fight, so the intent is that there is no difference between the training missions than the real missions, other than the actual threat itself.
Final mission is to take off, deliver goods, and land, but that is the end result of years of training, of whether it be ground school or in a classroom, in the simulator, or in actual flying training. It takes many years to get to the point where you can do that job.
50, 30, 20, 10.
Doing their job is what the tactical and strategic airlifters do best. Doing their job takes training, dedication, and lots of support. For the flying squadrons at 8 Wing, the support they get on the ground is paramount to every mission. Without it, they wouldn't be flying.
Holding checklist.
Getting off the ground takes more than just fuel. It takes the ongoing support of a dedicated team of behind-the-scenes professionals. Without the highly skilled maintenance and traffic personnel who make up 8 air maintenance and 2 air movement squadrons, they wouldn't be flying. These teams ensure the aircraft and the cargo are prepped, loaded, and mission ready.
We each all do our part of the work and help each other out, and we all each have a job to do as well. And part of the team as well is the people that support us as well, like maintainers and operations people. And
8 Air Maintenance is a 24/7 squadron that ensures mission-capable aircraft. 56,000 square meters of hangar space, a multi-million-dollar inventory of modern equipment, tools, and test instruments. Aviation technicians work on the heavy-duty task of maintaining 8 Wing's fleet of aircraft. Their motto is, with combined powers. They believe in teamwork. They're in high demand. So, training new technicians to join the squadron is a huge priority at 8 Air Maintenance.
Well, their role is very important. Of course, without serviceable aircraft, nothing happens, right? So the role with these junior technicians is they work their way up and eventually get deployed and keep the Hercs flying. Here we have aircraft 315. It is our training aircraft. We train aviation technicians for POM so they can get their first qualification to sign work on the aircraft.
Training is vital to doing the best job possible at 8 Air Maintenance, where one mistake could prove deadly.
What we're going to do, we're going to take off all this plumbing. Take this off, basically taking all the wiring out for the anti-skid. We're going to support this, and then take the pin out. Good?
Another essential support squadron to the airlifters is 2 Air Movements. They process all equipment, baggage, freight, and supplies on the ground before they leave the hangar. Everything that air crews airlift, even the passengers. If it's going on the aircraft, then it's up to 2 Air Movement Squadron to get it there. Deployed all over the world, 2 Air Movements prepare the loads that tactical and strategic flyers carry, drop, and deliver. The squadron's motto, never unprepared. A reminder of what they must ensure. Every pilot and every plane is fully loaded and properly prepared.
Two Air Movement Squadron, they are the agency that prepares the loads for airdrop. We have what we call riggers that go out, and they rig the load in the back of the aircraft for us. And then we go out and we inspect what they've done, and if everything is correct, then we're good to go.
Our role is quite vital from the ground up sort of thing, and when I say that is that it's getting things from point A to point B.
The load is built here in this hangar, and there's checks that need to be done to make sure it's secured. Everything is done properly. They do a joint inspection on it. Make sure the load is done. We come as a load acceptance team and make sure the checks are done. We run right back through the same joint inspection, making sure that it's ready for airdrop, because it's obviously a pretty big thing when it's getting dropped out of the back of a Herc.
And what the different bindings and lashings are, all these straps and everything, it's to secure it for a certain amount of G-force that it's going to go through, because when it goes out of the aircraft, the extraction system is going to yank on it and pull it, and this is going to secure it to make sure when it lands on the ground, it's safe for the troops for when it finally needs to be used.
Just check for serviceability.
Check.
Safety loop. Pendulum line.
Check.
So today we're just making sure that if there's any issues with the load, that they can be addressed here. And we have riggers that'll come out and help us if some of the bindings and lashings aren't done correctly or something doesn't meet the criteria that we need.
different parameters come into play when you're taking off, i.e. as in fuel, passengers, and cargo. So this all has to be taken into consideration when making a load plan so that everything goes smoothly, because there are certain things that can happen if it's not. So you could actually crash the aircraft if it was that bad.
They handle everything, and they're kind of the behind-the-scenes people that don't get much of the thanks, I would say. But all as far as the loading and everything that goes with it, and when the loads go and what goes and all that kind of thing, they have a big hidden job, basically.
That hidden job is done by experienced pros, handling over 23 million pounds of freight and 42,000 passengers a year. Day and night, no matter the conditions, 2 air movements are there to make sure that everything keeps moving. That kind of support often remains in the background. Those who repair the planes and keep them in working order.
Yes.
Those who load them up and make sure no cargo goes unchecked. These squadrons have got the backs of the flying air crews. And crews depend on them to protect their loads and their lives.
Navigator brief. Okay, time check, it's 12:21 just now. Stations, taxi, takeoff as required. Try to take off at 1 o'clock. Trans altitude is as required around the county. The weather of the objective area is the same as here. It's
The war in Afghanistan places high demands on the squadrons of 8 Wing. But the pilots, navigators, loadmasters, flight engineers, trainers, aviation, and traffic techs all have faith in the future of airlift. Faith that airlift in all its forms will continue to grow and be boosted by big changes looming on its horizon.
I think it's something that'll never go away. You're always going to need to move people and equipment anywhere in the world at any given time. With the new advent of our new aircraft coming here, the C-17, it may take a little bit of the actual freight hauling away from us, but I think the passenger hauling will just increase for us.
The C-17, 1 airplane, 3 crews, 580,000 pound takeoff weight as compared to 5 crew and 165,000 pound takeoff weight. So you just need to do the math. It's economy of resources. You can send 1 airplane and do three times what this one can do, at a minimum 3 times what this one can do. So yes, the C-17 is a very good thing for Canada and the Air Force.
The Boeing C-17 Globemaster III is the latest project to enhance the capabilities of the Air Force. The C-17 will enable the strategic flyers of 8 Wing to do more of what they do best, their jobs. And doing their jobs is what the crews in the air and support teams on the ground focus on daily. It's what they're most proud of.
In the bigger picture, especially our job that we have right now over in Afghanistan, we are delivering troops and whatever supplies that they need. So it's very important. We have a job to do and we have to get it done over there. It's very important.
Being a good human being, working towards the betterment of humanity is always a good thing. And this is, through the C-130, the method that Canada chooses to do it. And so it's actually very rewarding, but it's something we have to do, I think.
It feels wonderful to be part of that because I know we're actually doing a job which changes people's lives.
It allows you to take pride in, you're not just simply doing something and it's going nowhere, you're actually helping a great cause and helping people around the world.
Doing their part, making a difference, that's why they do it. The transport squadrons of 8 Wing, delivering people and equipment, delivering hope and help to people in need around the world.
For me, it's great. It's the most operational squadron, most operationally deployed squadron we have in the Canadian Forces right now. We're constantly overseas. It's the front line for the Air Force right now.
Strife in the world never ends. the speed with which you either have to recover and help in the aid of a natural disaster, or with which you have to get food somewhere. There will never be a non-requirement for airlift. We will always need it.
It's a job they love, a job that takes a lot of support, and a job they train for daily. They are the men and women behind CFB Trenton's 8-wing tactical and strategic airlift.